Hi folks, and welcome to February's Aches and Games Monthly, a regular check-in between two slightly older British friends, talking life, gaming, basically whatever else comes to mind. We've got a packed show for you this month. As always, we'll be sharing what we've been playing and doing, which includes January's game of the month, which was Synth Riders, our first VR title. Plus, we'll be chatting about Xbox's Developer Direct and the Nintendo Switch reveal and a couple of other things. But before we dive in, a reminder that these monthly shows now focus exclusively on the month that's just passed, but you'll also find occasional special episodes hitting your feed around 4 to 6 times a year. Remember, the first of those specials, which ran through our favourite games of 2024, can be found just a few episodes back on this very podcast feed, so why not check it out? You can also find us between episodes on good social platforms, our Facebook page and whatnot. I'm Giles Nicholson. I'm Giles Wentwest on various socials, Xbox and PlayStation 5. Joining me, patiently waiting for my long intro, is my good friend James Hopes. Hi James, it's February. We made it.
Yeah, we did. Congratulations. Very long month, January, isn't it? Always about 50 odd days in January. Never seems to end, but here we are. Still surviving. Although I'm a bit bunged up tonight, so apologies for any snuffles. Not any hacking coughs or anything else that crops up during the recording. So this is me at my best, as always. I'm James. I'm James Your Boy 1978 on PlayStation Network, and James Boy 78 9532, I think, on Xbox. But I did just make that up, so don't search for that because you won't find me probably. And I'm You Have to Laugh on social media, and obviously we do the X and Games website and Facebook page and all the other bits and pieces as well. So lots of fun stuff. So again, congratulations to you for making it through January and also making it through that long intro. You did very well. Congrats.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to hear you're not well, James. Let's see if we can nurse you through the next 45-ish minutes. Oh, that was very sad little cough right there. But okay, we'll see what we can do. Anyway, I'll keep an eye out for when you're desperately need a glass of water or something. But in the meantime, what have you been up to this month?
I was going to say, if you want to know what I sound like when I call in sick to work, this is what I sound like. Bunged up with the occasional cough.
Like it.
What have I been up to in January, Charles? Where to begin, hey? Where to begin? So, it's been a fairly busy month. A big part of it was my mum's back operation. We've talked about that a bit before, that my mum's back was a little bit knackered. So she spent a little bit of time in hospital in January getting her back surgically repaired, like in the WWE days, I'm sure you mentioned. And it went all right. She's in less pain now. She still feels a bit rough, but she's gradually recovering, so that's a big step forward. And hopefully she'll be back on her feet, metaphorically and physically, in no time. So that's a good boost for January. But we also did some social things as well, which is nice, outside of the hospital environment. We went to our local Italian restaurant in Tilehurst. It's called Vesuvio Pizza. It's got lots of pictures of mountains and volcanoes in the background. It's very pleasant. But weirdly, it's next to a dodgy car wash in my mum's old road. But it looks really nice when you get inside it. They've got a little terrace area, and they put sort of glass windows all around it and lots of lights, and it makes it look, when you're in there, like you're in Italy. But in reality, you're next to a dodgy car wash in a dump of a road in a bit of Tilehurst. So that's very pleasant. Went there for a friend we haven't seen for a long time. So he came back from his job in Calais, in France. So he popped back, and he brought 10 bottles of wine with him as well, as a gift. He asked Sarah what wine we liked, and he brought a bottle of all of it. So we've got 10 bottles of wine in the fridge now, burning a hole in the mini fridge layer. So happy days for that one. And also, which you'll talk about now, I'm sure, we had a little get-together, didn't we, in a restaurant called Chalk down your way, which is very, very, very pleasant and didn't cost that much. But tell us about it, Giles.
Yeah, no, it really pleased your mum's up went well, first of all, and I'm penciling a trip to Vesuvio. That sounds good. Yes, we all got together for sort of a variety of birthdays, didn't we? It kind of fell between various birthdays, and also, yeah, Chalk were doing a sort of Black Friday deal back in whenever that was, feels like years ago, November, I assume. So you kind of got your got a voucher for half the face value of said voucher. So we were very thrifty and also very old, and all planned ahead, all got our vouchers lined up and went out for a nice meal. It was lovely, wasn't it? I think we tried to do this for Sarah and Hannah's birthday back in sort of September time, and unfortunately Hannah was feeling a bit poorly, so didn't make it. So it was particularly nice to get the whole gang together, and yeah, we had a good night. You stayed over, didn't you, with Craig and Mags? Had a long good night.
Yeah, it's all good. Everyone was in good form that night. We went to a a local pub afterwards and tried to avoid all the bouncers trying to fight people out and girls asking us to look after their drinks while I went to the toilet in case they had any.
God.
Yeah. So, interesting place, but no one died, which is good. Everyone seemed to smile by the end of it, and we left and went home and had a happy time. So, all good. And we saw Craig and Mag's New Ensuite as well, which is very pleasant. So, if you've not seen it yet, do check out Craig and Mag's New Ensuite.
If you're listening, just pop over. They'd love it. I like the idea that the criteria for a good night out is no one died. So
yeah,
it
was a bonus these days, isn't it?
Indeed. Well, we obviously also went to the same dinner, which was very nice. We went out to some comedy as well. Do you know Sophie Duker? If you watch Taskmaster, she was on Taskmaster.
Oh, yeah.
A fair few series ago. So she was at what's it called, South Street. In Reading. So we went there with Madeline Scotty during the month, which was really fun. Comedy was good. Burger was particularly good. Again, this is a bit of a theme of my January. We also went up to London to see a really beautiful little Monet exhibition of his paintings of the Thames and the sort of Houses of Parliament. But what I remember from it was a really nice steak beforehand. So, driven by my stomach this month mostly. Also had a good lunch down with my uncle on my dad's side down in Wiltshire. This weekend, just gone actually. So another nice meal, but I haven't seen him in years. So was a bit worried that we'd have nothing to talk about. But in the end, it was more a case of desperately trying to get ourselves away after a really nice long day with them. Not just because it was Arsenal Man City that evening and I really wanted to watch it. But hopefully we did get back in time for the second half by coincidence. That was nice too. And lastly from me, before we go on to other stuff, I've been fiddling around a lot with my Quest and MetaQuest, and some of that is non-gaming related, so it felt like it fitted in here. So just wanted to highlight there's the DJ app, which Scotty and I both had on various tablets, phones, laptops in the past, called DJ, surprisingly enough. There's an app for the MetaQuest, so you have virtual decks in front of you, and you can make it a mixed reality, so you can see your surroundings as well, and sort of entertain your DJ fantasies of mixing stuff live on the decks for an audience of one, usually for myself, but that's been really fun. So been messing around with that. So yeah, busy month. You mentioned TV, James.
Yeah, well, last little bit first, we went to Swingers as well. You remember Swingers, the golf indoor place?
I'm glad you explained yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Swingers, wasn't it? I'm sure it's called Swingers. The last time we went there, we got COVID. Or me and Sarah both got COVID and then spread it around gleefully back during the olden days. But we didn't get COVID this time. And it was fine. It's a little bit run down now compared to what it was at the time. I don't think they've refurbed it since. But it's perfectly pleasant. Much shorter than I remember. So we took Joshua there this time. He had a little fun, but the whole thing was done in like 15 minutes, and I think he won and other stuff. So that was fine. So that was the only ever out and about bit. But yes, onto the TV. I've got to mention, we finished a Bear finally. We talked about the Bear a long time ago, didn't we? Back at the early days of the podcast. So the Bear, for those of you who haven't watched, is based in Chicago, isn't it? At a restaurant that used to be called the Big Beef or Great Beef or something to do with beef. The Beef?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they turned it into a posh restaurant, and the chef is called Kami. He comes to take over his dead brother's business to turn it into something a bit different, and it's very sweary, very dramatic, lots of action, lots of arguments, and it's all quite stressful watching it. So we had some big gaps between it, but finally got through the final episodes, and it was all quite pleasant in the end. So it ended nicely, despite Sarah saying she never wanted to watch it again because it's far too stressful, and you meant to watch TV to get away from a stressful life rather than to get even more stressed out of it. So we finished that one. We also watched extensively The Traitors, which I know you did as well, and probably everyone in the UK watched The Traitors because it is so awesome. And we had a great time watching that. Even Joshua got involved in the last couple of episodes. He had no interest in the series at all, and then popped in, saw 5 minutes of an episode and wanted to watch the rest of it and up to the final. So he had a great time. You enjoyed it, G, I guess?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We were a bit late to the first series. Watched the second one as it went along, and this was the third series, wasn't it? So Very much enjoyed it. Resent slightly having to commit 3 evenings every week. I'm not sure I'm sort of built for that anymore. But yeah, we persevered, and that comedy I mentioned was on the penultimate episode. So as she was pointing out, Sophie Duker was pointing out, we all now had to somehow catch up on that episode and then watch the finale to avoid it being spoiled, because it was all over, wasn't it? If you're in the
Oh,
UK or you're outside the UK, I'm sure it's the same for your version, but yeah, you cannot avoid it when it comes to after the last. You're going to find out who won, so you better watch it live.
It used to be the same in the old days with the X Factor and Strictly on the same weekends. You used to have to dedicate so much of your life to keeping up with Strictly and X Factor, so you didn't know who got booted out or what drama had happened. So yeah, I don't miss those days. But this is nice. It's only a few weeks. Nice, short and sharp. Probably about 15 episodes and job done. So very enjoyable. And we love Claudia Winkleman, don't we? So
Yeah, absolutely. Would you ever go on it, do you think, James? How do you think you'd do? Would you like to be a faithful or a traitor?
I'm quite a faithful type person, I think. I can't imagine being nasty or evil to people. Can't imagine murdering people. It's a bit harsh, really, isn't it? But if I got forced to do it, then I think I'd be quite good at it.
Yeah, exactly what a traitor would say.
Indeed. I probably wouldn't put on a fake accent, though, but I think you've got to put on a fake accent or make up a fake career these days to get on it. So it's probably going to go a bit downhill next season. Everyone will just be making stuff up to get famous as usual.
I thought that was particularly impressive. One of the contestants having a Welsh accent throughout when she was actually from sort of South London or something, wasn't she? And yeah, it's either that or you have to have a really good, virtuous thing that you're going to spend the money on. Because I don't know if you remember that when they were down to sort of the final 4 or 5 and they were round a dinner table talking about how they'd spend the money, the only person who basically said, I'm going to spend it on myself, I believe then got killed immediately. so yeah, at least pretend that you're gonna use it to save puppies or something.
Yeah, but again, it's back to X Factor days, isn't it? When everyone had to have an amazing sub story. It didn't matter how good they were at singing, you had to have a sub story, and your life had to be completely ruined and on its knees before you could even get near the place. So yeah, all got a bit silly. And Big Brother in the olden days, first series was great. The following series, everyone just wanted to go on it to get famous, so it became more and more ridiculous. So I'm hoping the traitors doesn't turn into that next series because it's been good so far.
It has. It has. Has that's been your month? Anything else you've caught your eye?
No, those are the two big things. Carry on watching SEAL Team and all our normal American dramas, but that's it for the big ones. What about you, G?
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, actually, pretty much just the traitors in terms of TV. We've watched a bit of a couple of other things, but nothing enough to go into today. The only thing I was going to highlight is I watched The Substance, a film, one of the contenders for this year's best film in the Oscars. Hannah was away for the weekend at a spa, and I thought, oh, this is good. It's probably not her sort of thing. I'll give it a go. It's through a trial of, I think, Mubi or one of the streaming services. I could watch it for free, and Scotty and various people, including my sister Anne, had recommended it to me with some caveats. And oh my god, that's a weird film. Very mixed feelings. So it's about a sort of fitness guru who's on TV, hits 50 and gets effectively sacked by her employer because she's too old in Hollywood and whatnot. Then she gets run over by a car. This is all very early on, so no huge spoilers. So she's having a bad day, and then at her lowest, she hears about a thing called The Substance, which can kind of rejuvenate you, bring you back to your sort of glory days, not just appearance wise, but give you kind of all your energy of youth. I know you and I might be tempted by that. Exactly. Our listeners, I'm sure, might be tempted. But listeners, do not be tempted, because as with all of these things, there is a catch. And the catch is that you have to sort of spend a week. You create effectively a sort of younger version of yourself, and then have to spend a week in either body. And it doesn't go very well, it's fair to say. It's probably the most graphic, schlocky, body horror, trauma style B-movie of a movie that's ever been nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. It obviously does have a fair bit to say about kind of body image and the place for older people, particularly older women in society and all that. It's sort of got some interesting things to say, but it's also, I think, not as, to me anyway, not nearly as clever as it thinks it is. It's got some really leery stuff around the workouts. So it's like a Benny Benassi video, if you remember Satisfaction
Very
back in
much so.
whenever that was. Well, it's kind of, there's about half of the film is basically that. And so, yeah, just completely bonkers.
Yeah, I think
Sounds up your street, James?
yeah, who knows? You've not really sold it, but some could possibly check out for a few minutes to see how horrific it was. But heading back to what you just said, I think as you get older, you realise that not everyone is as clever as they think they are. No one in the world is as clever as they think they are, especially as you get to our age and look at young people today who think they're clever, and presidents and everyone else who think they're clever, but they're really not that clever. So it's part of life, isn't it? But personified in a movie. So I shall have a look one day, Charles, possibly. I say that to a lot of things these days. I say it to a lot of games and a lot of things that I say, I'll have a look one day, but never, ever, will ever get around to watching it. There we go. That was you done for the month.
That was me. And speaking of games, we played a
Did
few,
we?
I believe, over the
Didn't
course
speak-
of the last month. Looking at my
Yeah.
notes, there's been one or two.
Yeah.
Should we start with the game of the month?
Yes, go for it.
Which was Synth Riders, James's excellent recommendation to try and get us a bit active in January after a sort of boozy and food-based month. Actually, I think January's been just as busy
Yeah.
and food-based for me.
Not worse.
Yeah. But there we go. So it's a virtual reality. It's a freestyle dance rhythm game, involving players touching sort of spheres in time with the music, sort of tracing their way along lines on the screen or rails as described, and avoiding obstacles that move towards you. So you do get a little bit of movement. You do need a little bit of rhythm, apparently, although I managed to score reasonably well, so maybe not too much. You get a selection of 77 tracks, apparently, with 75 optional downloadable tracks, which I will definitely come back to, because I think there's quite a difference between the ones you get included and the ones you pay for. And you get various virtual stages, so really nice sort of visuals involved. There are some experiences as well where things are visuals are linked up to the songs. And the description here says, which I did want to highlight because as a colourblind person, this could be a problem. But depending on what colour the different spheres and different objects are, you potentially have to hit them with the right hand or the left hand, or maybe both hands. So, James, that was a very matter-of-fact description of what I think is quite a fun game, which I've really failed to convey. Could you perhaps take it away and maybe sell it a bit more to the listeners? Did you enjoy it?
To be fair, it was a very accurate description. It's
you.
it is a fun game. That's correct. I've played it a few times now in short bursts. I don't think it's the kind of game you play for hours on end. It's the kind of thing you nip on for half an hour and then nip away again, for me. Like most virtual reality things for me. I generally get a bit sick after a while and a bit sweaty and a bit hot-headed, so I'd play it for a little while and then go off and do something else and come back to it another time. And I enjoyed it. Did I enjoy it as much as I thought I would? Not sure. And did I quite grasp the concept and the point of it? Not sure. So, as you know with me, I like games that you can win and achieve stuff, and I'm not sure how you'd win at that game. You see yourself on a scoreboard after you've done each round, so you give it a go, you wiggle around a bit and wave your hands, and you get a score, and it shows you where you are out of 100,000 people, or however many have played that bit on your chosen provider. And you can move up that one if you do better, so you can repeat songs, and obviously the more times you repeat them, the better up, and the higher you go up the table, which is nice. So I guess it's like going to the gym, I suppose. You're kind of competing against yourself to be slightly better, but you also see a scoreboard of lots of other people you're never going to meet and see how they've got on as well. So, like you said, it's about kind of hitting spheres, although I found that a bit awkward. I'm not sure if you're meant to hit them or just put your hand in the right place at the right time. And timing-wise, I never seemed to quite get the timing right. So I've played lots of these types of games in the past where I've got the timing exactly right, but this one I seem to be getting lots of okays and some pulls and not many goods. I wasn't quite sure if I hadn't set up quite right, or whether I'm just not as coordinated as I think I am, or whether I just wasn't doing the correct movement at the right time. So, like you said, you put your hand into place for certain ones at the right time, and you wave around a little bit as if you're on a rail for some parts. It's all quite fun. Nothing wrong with it at all, and I did enjoy it. but it didn't blow my mind particularly. And every round looks quite similar with different songs. The songs aren't particularly famous songs that come with a pack, I found, so they're all fine, but nothing mind blowing. I think in the old days, like with games like Rock Band, you had songs that you actually knew, so that made it a bit more entertaining. So unless you download some of the DLCs, you're stuck with some of the songs that aren't particularly famous. But it's fun. I had a nice time. I'd like to get more out of it. It wasn't really a workout because it wasn't quite hot and sweaty and mobile enough, because most of your action was just waving your arms around and occasionally ducking. But I had a bit of a sweat after a while. I would play it again. Wasn't amazing, but good. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try and pick things mostly that are included in the subscriptions, and we've tended to go with Game Pass or PlayStation Plus because those are the things we both got. This one was included in PlayStation Plus, I believe, on your PSVR 2, which you were playing on. It also was included on the MetaQuest Quest Plus subscription, which I had 3 months of, having bought the headset quite soon. So I wonder if I'd have paid for this game, I think I'd be quite disappointed in terms of what was included in the base pack, because they're clearly trying to sell you on the DLCs. The base pack is, they are sort of musicians, but they're not musicians that you would recognize necessarily. It's not like the house band doing sort of bad covers of popular songs. They are their own songs, and they tend to be quite sort of synth or a little bit almost sort of Skrillexy type music to my untrained ear. James, you're more versed to this sort of music. There was a swing section, I don't know if you found that, which was quite bizarre, a bit of a sort of rapid U-turn of sort of musical styles. But yeah, I definitely felt the lack of recognizable songs was a real gap, unfortunately. Did you try any of the DLC? I know I was feeling generous, and I did stump up for one of them.
Yeah, you did Muse and I did Muse as well, because I like Muse and we've been to see Muse many, many times over the years, me and Sarah. So that sounded entertaining, and that certainly helped the enjoyment. Like I said with Rock Band in the old days, and the dance games on the Switch and stuff, they're all recognisable songs. So I think a lot of the fun is dancing along or playing along or performing to a track that you recognise. And if you don't recognise the tracks, it's like more like going through the motions rather than enjoying it, which is a shame. So yeah, the DLC with Muse, I think it had about 5 songs, didn't it? And one of them was sort of an experience, which was nice. So with the experiences, instead of just seeing the things coming towards you, you still see the things coming towards you, but you have some nice background pictures and stuff. So one of the Muse songs ends with a nice couple hugging and embracing at the end, which is quite pleasant. You see lots of lights and different scenes as you go through it, which is nice. So that certainly added to the excitement. If I recognised every song in a game, it would certainly have made me enjoy it more, but I wouldn't want to spunk £8 on a DLC many times over, apart from the one I've already done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you could definitely find yourself paying quite a lot, I think, if you add all those things up. I don't know if there was a bundle somewhere to get everything together, but having got the game for free, I was quite happy forking out. I think I was paid maybe about £5 for the £5 or £6, so maybe it's cheaper for us, but it there you go, how the other half live. I definitely would have I think enjoyed it more with more recognizable songs. That said, also a couple of things that I experienced having done the tutorial, which was very much sort of very handholdy, very slow, put your hand here and put it over this color and put it here, and then I did find in the accessibility settings that I could change the colors, which was good because I couldn't tell the difference between two of them in the base setting. But then I felt quite confident after doing the tutorial, and my first song was this absolute bastard song called Go by Dance with the Dead. I don't know if you'll recognise this, probably not a memorable song, but the first one that the game gave me, which was like a sort of 180 BPM insanity. So you sort of went from kind of putting one hand up nice and slow, wait a few seconds, maybe the other hand, maybe a bit of a grind rail here, to looking a little bit like you were either sort of waving in air traffic control to sort of in the world's busiest airport, or having some kind of episode. So that was a that was a bit of a baptism of fire. But I really enjoyed the feedback from the controls when it synced up properly to the music. I really enjoyed that. But when it did feel quite detached. I know what you're saying. A lot of the time, it felt like you were just putting your hand in the right place to sort of trigger the thing, which didn't really feel like very satisfying. Have you played any other like motion control stuff on PSVR? Have you played like Beat Saber or any of those?
I tried Beat Saber a while ago, and I did Box VR, I think, on the original PlayStation 1, which was similar, where you hit things in different directions. That was more of a workout, so you felt like you were really getting a sweat on this one, whereas this one was more doing it for no great purpose. I didn't get the sense of achievement I wanted out of it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like I ever achieved much at the end of it. Because after you complete the song, you go back to the menu, and then you just pick another song. There didn't seem to be anything guiding you to where to go next. And you're correct in that the difficulty level I found quite challenging when you first came into it. I'm fairly mal-coordinated, generally. I remember when I was younger, I used to go to swimming lessons when I was about 8, and my mum pulled me out one day because the swimming instructor, Mrs. Dudding, kept having to go at me about my lack of coordination. And my mum said, you're not staying there for that. And she dragged me out in the pool, and I had to walk out in my swimming trunks out of the auditorium and never to return. So it kind of made me feel back to my swimming days playing this game. Because as Charles mentioned, if you see a pink circle, pink sphere, you hit it with your right fist, and if you see a blue one, you hit it with your left fist. Unless in Charles's case, you can't tell the difference, in which case you randomly slashing them, I guess. And if you see a green one, you can go with either hand, and if you see an orange one, you have to use both hands. And it's quite hard because you associate the right-hand ones being on the right-hand side and the left ones being on the left-hand side, and sometimes they swap over, and that completely fries my brain, so I'm sort of there as if, like Charles said, I'm having some kind of incident or medical episode. But the more times you play the same song, the better you get at it, so I guess that's the sense of achievement that you get out of it. But yeah, it's fine. Probably a 74% game rather than a 80 plus, if I had to give a rough estimation of percentages.
Wow, that's very specific. Yeah, I think we maybe missed a trick. If it was possible to link up the accounts across the two different devices, if we could have seen each other's scores, maybe that would have given us that sort of competitive edge. But I agree, it was fun while it lasted, but there's a whole thousands of other games out there to play, including on the VR headset, so I'm not sure how much I'll go back to it.
Yeah, the two-person would have been great if you could both play on a headset in remote locations and see you on a side-by-side split screen. That'd be great. So you could compete against people, see who was winning and having a little race out of it. That'd be quite fun. But
there you go.
Wasn't to be. Maybe in the future. I'll write in and suggest it later.
Yeah, if they're listening.
Yeah.
Right, well, on to maybe more enjoyable experiences, James. What else have you been playing this month?
Quite a few things. Annoyingly, due to my age, I can't remember what I finished last month and what I finished the month just gone. So I'll probably end up talking about stuff that I'd already finished in December or November or middle of last year, and thinking I'd finished in January. But we shall see.
I'll give you like a thumbs up or a thumbs down so we can speed it up.
So I'm 94% sure that I finished Little Nightmares 2 in January, just since the last episode. I think during the last episode we talked about the fact that I was like 2/3 of the way through, and I think that evening I went back and finished it, so I could talk about it the next time. And it was awesome. What a great game. One of my favourite games of all time is Little Nightmares 2. We talked about it before, so please do pop back, and it was one of my nominations for best game that we played last year, of the year. It also came out. Did it all come out last year? Can't remember. Who knows? Maybe the year before. But we played it last year and this year. The ending was quite sad, and the game got kind of sadder as it went through. It was disturbing the whole way through. You never knew what you're aiming for. You're a small child wearing a Mac at first, and then you put a bag over your head and a helmet. That gives you an idea of the game itself. And then you meet other friend who's equally miserable and been locked in a basement for years. And then you go through different awfully dark scenarios. You smash other children's clay heads in, you get chased by teachers with extendable necks. You got some kind of, I don't know what it was, some kind of bug, a big bug man on the ceiling that looks like a witchy grub and comes and attacks you. It's a miserable game. You keep running away for stuff, you eventually get somewhere, you think you're going to achieve something, it gets to the end and it doesn't end as you expect or hope it would end, and it ends quite miserably unless you're feeling quite miserable about the whole experience. So I really enjoyed it. Great game. I recommend playing it, but don't expect to be joyful at the end of the game. It's like The Last of Us. You get to the end of the game, and you're not really joyful that you finished it. You're like, oh, wow, that's dark. And then you move on with your life. Yeah. Then you go and have a cry and sit in the toilet for 30 minutes weeping. But yeah, great game. Thoroughly recommend it. One of the Game of Year's contenders. And I'm glad I finished it and took a video, which I put on social media, of the ending sequence, which was in itself quite disturbing.
Is there anywhere I can find a review of this game, James?
Oh, probably loads of places, Giles, but one of the places you can certainly find it is on the Aches and Games website, which is achesandgames.co.uk, as you remember, not .com, co.uk. We're a company in the UK, obviously. So please do have a look on there. It's a great review. Great review. Not too long, not too short. Got a percentage on there as well. Can't remember the percentage, but it was very well written. And yeah, you'll enjoy reading it, I'm sure.
You just reviewed your review. It's a great review. I love that. Yeah. I mean, completely unbiased. I'm looking forward to a future episode where you're like, yeah, I reviewed it, but it's a bit average, if I'm honest. The game itself, great. One of my weaker reviews.
Yeah, I've done better in terms of reviews. No, but this one was really good. You'll love the review. Had photos in it and everything. Great review. One of the best reviews I've in the last few weeks. That was my first game. You can go for your first game, Giles.
Oh, thank you very much. I will. I'm almost in chronological order, I think, because I'm a simple person. So I finished Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I am very pleased with that and very smug about that because I could see that I was first. No, that's competition because I know it's good to take your time with these things. I've got to say, I debated with myself whether to put it in the Games of the Year for last year because I hadn't finished it, and I thought that was kind of poor form. But I had got as far enough through it to know that unless it absolutely stank the place out in the last kind of 10-20% of the game, it was going to be up there for my Games of the Year, and lo and behold, it finished really strongly. If you got to the Himalayas and Shanghai sort of bits?
No, I'm still in the pyramids at the moment because me and Sarah we're both off together to play it together, so it's going to take a long time for us.
No problem. Well, in which case I will be particularly careful for spoilers. I was thinking about the listeners, but I was thinking about yourself. But yeah, there's a couple of sequences towards the end which are absolutely just fantastic. I would say testament to the game that I sort of couldn't put it down, and I did finish it fairly quickly for a big game, but also didn't want to sort of rush through it. So I wasn't kind of just mainlining the story. There is a sequence which is not on the main path, which is called The Kid Who Vanished, and in that piece of, they call it fieldwork, but side quest basically, it had this amazing sort of puzzle and action sequence, which I would highly recommend, just going a bit off the beaten path. That sort of blew my mind. You think that is something that a proportion, and possibly quite a large proportion, of people playing it will just completely miss. And I'm sure that means that there's things that I just completely bypassed, which are hopefully equally good. So very much jealous of you still playing it. I could go back and sweep up the bits and pieces, which I might well do. And the only other thing I want to say about that game, which was great, was last month, I mentioned that I thought it would be really good in VR because it was first person. And I have seen that someone's done a VR mod on PC. So I might see if I can wangle some technical jiggery pokery and connect up my headset to the PC and get the mod. And oh my god, this is way beyond my capability. So I might just watch the YouTube video. But it sounds good, doesn't it? Are you still playing, James? I think.
Yeah, I was going to say it's quite rare to have your mind blown in the mid-40s. So it's quite a special achievement. So great. To me, Sarah still playing when we have the rare nugget of time together when we're not either working or doing something else. So yeah, still a great game. Really enjoyed the Vatican part, which is the first part, as you know. Really enjoying the whatever the place is called. What's it called? What's the second one called? Giza? No, not Giza.
Giza. Yeah,
it's Giza. Yeah, enjoying that part so far. Probably about 2/3 of the way through that part. So yeah, progressing slowly but surely and enjoying it very much so. Good fun. But I won't talk about that one too much because you've already talked about it. So I'll talk about Hellblade, which you've also talked about at length before because you played it and loved the first one. As you know, as everyone knows, because they've obviously listened to every episode and heard us talk about it before, Hellblade follows the story of a girl called Senua, who who makes various sacrifices and does all sorts of fun stuff. But she's got some issues, bless her. She's always got voices in her head where she's constantly telling her stuff. Some are quite positive, some are quite negative, and they're always talking to her. And the game advises you to wear a headset when you're playing it so you can get the full wrath of those voices in your head, so it feels a little bit like you're sort of going a bit crazy. I made Sarah try it last night and she found it too disturbing and gave up very quickly. But I quite enjoy that. I like people talking to me in my head. It kind of blanks out some of the voices that I naturally have in my head anyway. And very enjoyable. And you have to look out for audio clues in it as well. So if you're approaching something useful, then they start saying different things so you know you're kind of in the right path. And sometimes they tell you to do certain things, which really help you progress through the game. Very interesting. Good puzzles. I played a little bit with Joshua yesterday, a nicer part of it. And he quite enjoyed the puzzle solving part of it as well. You get little symbols and you have to line them up in a certain direction by moving some things and standing in a certain place to get through certain bits. Lots of hacking and slashing, lots of burning things. There's lots of fire around. And I've done the first 2 bits now, so to get through into the path to hell, you have to complete 2 separate little quest parts. So I've completed both of them now, so now I'm going towards the hell part. And it's an awesome game. Love it. Really enjoy the noise. Graphics are great. I'm playing it on the PC, which is quite unusual for me to play a proper game on the PC. And yeah, I'm glad you recommended it a while ago, and I'm very much enjoying it.
Well, yeah, pleased you're enjoying it, and it'll be interesting if you do then get to the second one eventually, how you feel, because a lot of people, it's a very different game. I'll leave it at that. It's a different game, but it was in my top games of last year. So
yeah, one thing that disturbs me with it, for some reason, I like when playing games to rotate the camera around so you can look the character in the face. And in Hellblade, you can't look the character in the face because whenever you rotate around, she turns her head sideways to avoid eye contact, and I find that quite disturbing. So, like in The Last of Us, you always look at Ellie in the face or Joel in the face and see how they react because they always nicely animate. So when the rain drops, you can see them animating the rain dropping on their face. But with Senua, she always looks away from you. She never refuses to look you in the face with a head full of voices and lack of eye contact. Bless her.
Nice. I never knew that. Nice little. What's it called? Easter egg. Cool. Well, as we often talk about all the darkness, I'm going to talk about a really charming little storybook game. So we mentioned Synth Riders, and I've been really making good use of the Meta Quest. So I played a game called Moss, which is also on PSVR. I don't know if you've ever had a chance or if it does come on subscription. Highly recommend it. Really fab game, very charming, really, really enjoyed it. And I feel like I sort of didn't do it justice in my description last month. So I have now finished it. It's fairly short. It's about 3 to 4 hours. But it's book 1 of 2. It's kind of got a storybook feel, so they call them books rather than, Moss 1 or Moss 2. And it made me think that might be one of the big appeals for me of VR gaming, that the games are much more small and self-contained. And I can understand if you paid full price for them, that might not be a good thing. But from my point of view, especially playing them through subscription or picking them up on the cheap, then it's just perfect. You play as Quill, who is a mouse who has to go on a quest to save her uncle. But do you play as Quill because you are looking down at the scenes that she's sort of running through? You sort of actually play as a character called the Reader, who is there to help Quill by physically being able to move things in her play space. And so you're controlling her as well, so it's kind of first and third person, so completely confusing. But she'll sort of run into the scene, and the scene will be static in front of you, and then she'll run out of the scene and then move on to the next one. So the camera doesn't follow her. You are the camera, essentially, as the Reader, but you can also pick up objects and move them out of the way, or you can control her directly. So there's some really good puzzles, including both of that. There's some pretty fun combat, really cool sense of scale. This time in the sense of making everything look tiny, so it looks like a little sort of diorama or doll's house in front of you, which is really cool. She's a little mouse, and other things in the world can be rather larger, so that's pretty good. And the ending was great. I got it for free, or I played it for free through subscription, and there was a sale on, so I immediately bought book 2 because that was about a tenner, and I really wanted to see what happens next. So I think that's probably the best review I could give. Really highly recommend it. It's one of the better VR games I've ever played.
Sounds a lot better than when you talked about it last time, Giles. So congratulations on selling it
Thank
better
you.
this time.
Good.
On behalf of the Moss creator. Um, Weirdly, I got back into a game this month I hadn't played for many, many, many years. During my youth, when I was living at home with a little computer on the Amiga in a little box room in my parents' house, I used to play a lot of Championship Manager, which was a football management simulation game. I used to like simulation games back then and really enjoyed it. I spent many years playing it, far too long probably. And I've not played one since until sort of maybe this time last year when I thought I'd give it a go because it was on some subscription service, and I played it for a couple of hours. Didn't enjoy it at all. I got far too bored of it, so I gave up. And for some reason this year, it's on a subscription service again on Xbox. I've been playing Football Manager 24 on a PC, and I've put far too many hours into it this month, more than anything else I've done. Probably more than I spent at work. I've played Football Manager this month. And for some reason, I really enjoyed it this time. I started off managing Reading, which is obviously our hometown team, and got sacked quite quickly because I was god-awful. But my hands were tied due to an awful ownership situation and the lack of ability to buy players, etc.
Good to escape reality.
Indeed. So I got sacked from them before Christmas. And then I took on the challenge of a team called Kelty Hearts in Scotland. It's in like the 4th division of Scottish football. And I managed to get them promoted, so I was quite pleased with myself. So that renewed my vigour. And then my second season at Kelty Hearts, I was doing well, but then decided to leave for an opportunity at Dagenham and Redbridge. So I'm now the manager of Dagenham and Redbridge in League 2 in England. And I'm currently top of the table, having won 3 matches out of 3. So very much enjoying it. It's as complicated as you want to make it, so you can go into all the facts and figures and stats and data and do whatever you want to. But deep down, you probably know in reality it's only basing it on sort of guesswork and very minor details. So I'm putting a little bit of effort into it, racing through the seasons, having a good time, really enjoying that one, bizarrely, after all these years of not being interested at all.
Nice. Oh, it's good to rediscover. I think those games, that and Championship Manager, were the sorts of things that I just knew that if I ever started, I would never stop. So I've not gone near either. But glad you got a bit more self-control, although it sounds like it's taking over your life.
Yeah, it's like Pringles, isn't it? Once you pop, you can't stop.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Although, no sponsorship again, so...
No, not yet. You thought we'd be able to get some free Pringles. They're quite cheap anyway, so maybe we'll work on Pringles, the Pringles Corporation for next month.
I'll be up for that.
And you have a little love nostalgia to finish off your little section?
Yeah, no, good positioning as well, because I've been playing lots of bits and pieces, so I won't go into detail on those. If I stick with any of them for next month, I'll highlight. But the one thing I did want to mention, because you rated it very highly again in our 2024 games, was Disco Elysium.
Oh, yeah.
I say in my notes I mentioned my new job, although I don't think I did. But I did start a new job this month as well. So I had a bit of travel and an overnight stay, so I took the Switch with me. And that was the perfect chance because had been playing Disco Elysium on the plane on the way back from America to sort of pick it up again and give it a go. And you were very convincing in terms of how much you enjoyed it. So I gave it a proper go. Spent most of my travel time really, apart from a bit of work, and really got into it. The setting is kind of unique and brilliant. Again, if anyone wants to know more about the game, go back to our Games of 2024 episode, because James explains it much more succinctly and well than I could. But this is a very story-heavy game, very detailed history of the place that you find yourself in. Maybe a bit too much detail. There's like 6,000 years of lore across all these different like races and places, and I lose track a little bit. I kind of need a little what's it called, glossary. But it's a really old school game. It's almost like a tabletop or a Dungeons and Dragons type experience. A lot of reading, a lot of dice rolling to see if you've either sort of managed to avoid death or, not throw up because you've been drinking too much as an alcoholic policeman. Lots of dice rolling, lots of reading, but also lots of fun. So enjoying that, and I'm looking forward to finishing off and solving the mystery. So again, thank you, James. I think we've been recommending a few things to each other, and that really worked out again.
You will find the ending very odd if you ever get to it. Very odd. Doesn't really finish off with a really odd ending. Cut a little extra bits from me, so obviously I've carried on playing Fortnite with Joshua, as always. Played a bit of Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. We chatted about that before. That was a fun game where you go through space and co-pilot a ship with its lasers and guns and all kinds of fun stuff and rescue rabbits and foxes. Great game for the family. All still recommend that one. And I carried on a bit more with a game called Before Your Eyes, which we talked about before. This one on the PSVR 2, where you control the action with your blinking. So you blink in certain places to move the story forward. Very, very much story driven. It's kind of a walking simulator, but you don't walk, you blink. It's a blinking simulator, if for want of a better phrase. And you've died, and you're trying to get into a nice part of heaven. So you're trying to get the gatekeepers of heaven to recount your story to show what a great life and interesting life you've lived. But weirdly, when you get to the end, it goes a bit sour. And if you've lied at any point or have missed bits out, then it gets really angsty and you've got to go back and do parts all over again. So I'm in the doing parts all over again section now. So I would recommend it. It's a bit odd, a bit basic, but good fun for VR. Lovely. That's me done for the month.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I don't know. We mentioned January was a long month. I think we've crammed a lot in, so hopefully that was of interest, listeners. Obviously, as always, we're keen to hear what you've been playing or what you're looking forward to in the coming months, so please do get in touch through the socials or email us or go on the Facebook page. And in terms of other stuff that's been going on this month, it's been quite a busy month for news, surprisingly, for January. So if we just pick out some highlights, quite a big game release on PlayStation Plus, God of War Ragnarok hitting the service. Also a game I'm really looking forward to on Game Pass, which was Lonely Mountain Snow Riders, which is a sort of chill snowboarding game. So looking forward to that. And Ninja Gaiden 2 Black also hitting the service, which we'll probably talk about soon. But a busy month on those services, and Avowed coming out this month. James, anything that takes your fancy hitting the services at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, Avowed looked fine, didn't it? Interesting. PlayStation Plus basic level. What's it called? Extra these days? PlayStation Extra? The basic level? Who knows? Weird games on that one this month. Oh, is it? Is it Essentials? Really? So those games have been announced. The premium ones haven't been announced yet. They're normally obviously a lot better and more PSVR 2 focused. But the ones that are coming out in February don't look massively exciting, I didn't think. There's a sort of a Pac-Man type game. And there's a couple of other little ones that didn't really float my boat particularly. So I'm not going to be playing any of those probably. But God of War Ragnarok, I've obviously added to my library, along with the Need for Speed one I've put in my library. And there's one other one from last month, which is in my library as well. Will I ever get around to playing it? Only time will tell. Readers, you'll find out in a few months' time if we ever got around to playing any of them. But also Avowed does look good, doesn't it? Sort of a fantasy RPG that comes out on the 18th of February, a day one release on Game Pass. There's some more day one releases coming as well in March and April. So there's Atomfall, which we spoke about before as being a cool sort of survival horror type thing. It's set in an exclusion zone in the north of England. So fun in that obviously it's very British in looking. So they stick red phone boxes and stuff that may remind you of Britain everywhere. Sort of poverty and tents and misery. So that'll be fun when it comes out. That's on the 27th of March. And then April the 8th, a game called South of Midnight, which we looked at in one of the trailer events. Was it in Developer Direct?
It was in Developer Direct, yeah. We had quite a lot announced and of interest to people who own Xboxes or PlayStation, because nearly all of them are coming to both systems. But yeah, the Xbox Developer Direct, South of Midnight, coming in April.
Yeah, April the 8th, and looked really good. It's sort of set in the deep south of America, in sort of a made-up type place. It's a third-person action adventure type game, very much story-driven, interesting characters by the look of it. The trailer looked really good, I thought. There's a bit of magic involved, lots of massive giant monsters involved as well, so you can sort of draw on the environment to do different bits of magic and achieve stuff. So it looks really good. That's probably one of the type of games I'm really looking forward to. So hopefully in a couple of months' time, we shall give that a good go as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I like the look of everything in that developer direct. I really like the format as well. It's sort of 4 or 5 games. I think it was technically 5 because there was a sort of what's it called? Surprise drop on the day of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which I've just noticed in the notes says Ninja Garden. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That could be fun too, though. I imagine ninjas are pretty good at gardening. They just like chop everything down. They'll be good at keeping things short, but maybe not the delicate. Anyway, I'm digressing as always. South of Midnight, yeah, I agree. Looked great. I think Claire Obscure looked really good as well, a sort of Final Fantasy style RPG from a French developer. And Doom as well. Doom the Dark Ages looks really cool. It's a sort of prequel to the 2016 Doom, and it has a sort of medieval, really grimy, gritty look, which as regular listeners will know, we're all about the grime here. So yeah, I thought that whole show was really good, and with Xbox stuff tending to go multi-platform, something for everyone on every system.
I did kind of panic when I hear fantasy RPGs because they're going to last like 150 hours and.
That's the other good thing.
Is this one short?
No, this is short. So this is the team's first game, and they've said, I mean, it's not short, but I think they said it's sort of 20 to 30 hours. So sort of Last of Us 2 length, as opposed to, give up your life for the next 3 months length of some of them. So yes, looking good. A couple of other stories just before we go. Switch 2 got revealed, which should be a really big story, except it was a kind of... it felt like it was very much a reaction to the fact that everything about it had leaked, and so they just put out this like 40-second video and then said, we'll see you properly in April or May or something. Any thoughts on the Switch reveal, James? Switch 2, rather?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nintendo are always very different than all the other companies because they don't aim to be the best or particularly cutting edge. So I think allegedly this one comes in somewhere between the PlayStation 4 in terms of technology and the PlayStation 4 Pro. So it's like a whole generation ago, which is always interesting when you think about it. But a big bonus is meant to obviously be it's fully backwards compatible. So you've got a massive 10 plus years worth of Nintendo exclusives and lots of massive back catalogue. So in terms of a new system coming out, you can probably play more games on it than any other system ever made, probably. So that's obviously a big benefit. It looks about the same size, doesn't it? But slightly bigger joy pads and magnetic Joy-Cons rather than stick them on the rail ones. But apart from that, it's probably going to be fairly similar, just a bit better than the old Switch. So it doesn't make me throw my clothes off and run around naked, but it sounds all right.
Thank God for that. Sorry. Yeah, I think the same. Yeah, it's very much iterative. I don't think you can get excited. I think they were in a bit of a tough place because I think they did get this out, whether they had a plan to sort of have this as part of a wider event, maybe showing the games as well, and those are coming in a few months.
Yeah.
And so they sort of rushed this forward. That's kind of one theory I've heard floated around. But yeah, I think we'll sort of judge things in April or May. And yes, there's also some hands-on events, which I think we both tried to get tickets to, but I certainly failed. I don't know if you've got the email. No. There we go. Well, listeners, look out for us not having coverage of that in a few months' time.
Yeah, I think for us, we really enjoy the cutting edge stuff, don't we? So the Switch is never going to be massively cutting edge in terms of technology. We always like the really new bits of technology.
Yeah, we like new tech, and then we'll play games that are from like 8 years ago on them.
Play Football Manager on it. Yeah,
that's our USP basically.
Yeah, lovely.
Good stuff. We're not ignoring Sony. Microsoft certainly aren't ignoring Sony. They're bringing out Forza Horizon 5, Age of Empires 2 and Age of Mythology, hot off the press because they only announced it just before recording. But Sony have had to cancel a number of live service games recently, so they might have a bit of a gap in their schedule, so that could work out well. But there are rumours of a state of play in February, so if that comes, we will be talking about them more next month, no doubt.
Yeah, all the exclusive PlayStation games coming up, none of them have any release dates at all, so there's meant to be like 11 exclusive PS5 games coming over the next year or so, but none of them are anywhere near launching, so there's not a lot to get excited about from a PlayStation perspective. Fortunately, there's a whole 20 years worth of stuff I still need to work my way through anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much for me.
Exactly. Well, we're doing our bit because we will be hitting PlayStation Plus for our Game of the Month for February. Although it was technically January's essential game, wasn't it, James? You mentioned there was another game that had hit your backlog or hit your download stream. Do you want to take people through what our Game of the Month is going to be?
I can do, but you've got the massive thing written on your tablet in a minute. So it's called Stanley Parable, and it's a weird game. Supposedly, the less you know about it, the better, and the more you enjoy it. So I've deliberately tried to find out as little as possible about it. The good news is it's meant to only be sort of about 5-6 hours in length. So that's my ideal length these days because my attention span doesn't take me much past that anymore. And I've forgotten what happened in the first 5 hours if it's more than a 5-hour game. So that looks fun. And I'm sure you read out in the description in a minute, but you kind of make decisions, but you don't make decisions because they're made for you and taken out of your hands. And you achieve things, but you don't achieve things. And then you finish a game, but you can't finish a game. So it sounds really interesting. It might be god-awful, but hopefully it's fun. And I think it's been around a little while, Giles, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, listeners. If you think that sounds like James doesn't remember the description, on this occasion, whereas normally that would be the case, but on this occasion, we haven't forgotten the description. That pretty much is almost word for word, James, what the description is. So spot on. Yeah, it's an expanded version of a game from 2013. Highly thought of, very well rated. And yes, I think the fact that we're trying not to know too much about it does make it quite challenging to try and sell it to you listeners. But hopefully, come this time next month, we might have more to say, and then we'll be trying to tiptoe around not spoiling it for you, probably. But, we'll have enjoyed ourselves. So looking forward to this. It sounds like it is a very enjoyable and interesting experience. So we're both looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And we will update you in a month's time.
I don't think it's going to be technologically amazing, but I think it's going to be brain-bending and interesting.
There you go. And that's what you come here for, people. For brain-bending and interesting. We do try, or at least, gently prodded in one direction. Yes. So I think, James, that's the show.
Yeah, could be.
We're going to come in under an hour. You never know. Please remember, listeners, to like and subscribe to the podcast. Consider giving us a 5-star review. Helps push us up those searches. We'd appreciate a follow. And any comments on Threads, most social platforms, at Aches and Games, on our Facebook page, or by emailing us, achesandgamespod@gmail.com. James mentioned the website, which is achesandgames.co.uk. Please check out that review of Little Nightmares 2. I've heard it's excellent, both the game and the review, according to the reviewer. Yeah. I'm Giles Nicholson. Joel, what's went west on most things? How about you, James?
Yeah, I'm still James, as I was at the start of the episode, so nothing's changed in the last hour, fortunately. Do check out the website. And also, Giles posts these days the entire video on YouTube of the entire thing. So if you've got a spare hour and you want to see our faces saying the words rather than just listen to them in your ears, that option is open to you. So please do avail yourself of that opportunity. It's really interesting. Not that we're wearing exciting clothes today. There's no costumes or anything. We're just in jumpers and a fleece. But there we go. It's nice to see our faces move to show we are real people doing real things and spitting real beats and stuff. So thanks for joining us. I'm James. Have a great month. Giles, say goodbye.
Yeah. See you next month, folks. First Friday of the month for more Aches and Games. Cheers.
See you later.